All right, what's up, guys? Didn't get a ton of questions on the last one, but I got one that I thought merited its own video because it's one of the ones that, like, when I decided to make a YouTube channel, I was like, all right, I'll just try to put up shit that when I was in high school and I was, getting into like strength training and trying to get stronger, what do I wish I could have watched, right? And some guy asked, he's like, how would you go about starting to program for yourself? And that's a really good question because when I started lifting, everyone was like, that was when like powerlifting coaches and strength coaches on the internet were becoming more of a commonplace, and you didn't have to find someone in person. So everyone was like, just get a coach. I'm like, no. And they're like, you're going to hold yourself back as an athlete if you don't get your coach. And I'm like, sure, but kind of fiddling with stuff is the part of training I enjoy, right? So there was no resources for that. And so I guess if someone was to ask me that now, they're like, Sam, fuck you, I don't want to hire you. That's valid. I want to do my own thing. I just want to like know how you would suggest I go about learning to do it myself, right? Which is a totally valid question. And I would say I had to put some thought into this because obviously I didn't plan it out myself. I just kind of went along, and what I did emerged with time. But what I would recommend is I would do a lot of reading about like just some general principles of programming all over the place. And then I want you to just find a pre-written program, because there are so many out there, that makes the most sense to you. That's the most important thing, especially when you're less advanced. But even if you're not less advanced, I can't state enough how much buy-in is going to affect how well you do the program, which is going to affect how it works out, right? Up until a very, very high level, I think your results are going to be extremely comparable regardless of programming, as long as it's somewhat reasonable. Because what makes the difference between a strong person and a not strong person usually isn't the program. People have been produced by a lot of different methods, right? So what one you pick, honestly, does not matter that much. People are like, oh, what do you think about this for a beginner? Listen, you're wasting your time. As a beginner, you don't know how to eat, you don't know how to train. Learn how to do those before you start like trying to optimize your program. If your nutrition and your training isn't optimized beforehand, I understand why you think that's an easy, like, you're just like, oh, I just got to find the right one. There is no right one. Find the one that makes the most sense to you. That's the best way I can put it, is you find the method. Just like in my head, you're like, yeah, no, that sounds like it would make me stronger, right? If you say that, that's the program for you. You're going to run it verbatim. Twice probably, right? Because you need to go once to figure out if it works, right? And then I think it's important to make sure that you can replicate it, right? So you run it twice verbatim, and like, if it works for you, it works for you. If it doesn't, maybe you try a different one. But as soon as you find one that works, right, you're gonna probably run it through twice. Start to understand, because there's an understanding on paper of, okay, this is how the progression scheme works, I get it. And then there's a much more in-depth understanding of a program that only occurs by doing it. You might understand singles before back-off work on paper, but if you've never done it, you don't truly understand that style of training. Or you might be like, oh, I understand block, I just haven't done it because I've always done like pure daily undulating. You understand how it works, right? But you don't understand the feelings that are associated with it, and that's whether that's something that works for you, right? So you're gonna find the one that makes most sense. You're gonna run it. You're gonna say, okay, that worked reasonably well for me, as it probably did. You're gonna start breaking down and understanding how and why each week works together. You're gonna develop a good understanding of that program. Like, you don't have to be some programming wizard to know everything about training. All you have to do is know, hey, I know what I know for myself, which is the things that I've done, right? So you know the inner workings of doing this block, and then you can start to chip away and try different things and alter the loading schemes slightly, alter the block length if it's a block. If you're doing conjugate, alter your exercise selection, I would imagine, right? Your loading parameters on your singles, if that's something you do, and you just slowly start fiddling, right? And you're gonna fuck up one of two ways, if not probably both at some point, right? So you have, I would say, the majority of people fall into the trap of they change things too often to get a good training effect out of them, even if they were a good change, and that is why they fall short self-programming. I would say, the whole like paralysis by analysis type deal, I would say more people fall into that than any other category of holding yourself back by coaching yourself. So you say, all right, this is set in stone. I wrote out how this block is going to work. I am not going to make any changes until I evaluate at the end of the block after I've seen how it works, right? You need to establish that cause-effect relationship and do each block is an experiment on yourself. And just like an experiment, you can't have multiple things that you're changing or you're not going to be able to tell what produced the result, right? So that would be the first category of like what you need to look out for is too much fiddling with it. Just put some good thought into it and stick to it, right? If it didn't work great, fix it, but you need to know first. And then the other category would be someone who just does it over and over and over. That just comes down to, at the end of each block, you evaluate, like, okay, does the rate of progress that I made this block make sense with my lifestyle factors? So if I say, okay, rough semester of school, wasn't sleeping very much, I only improved my squat by 5 pounds this block, you know, at my level I should be going faster, but that's not the program, that's the school, right? But if you're like, hey, I think I should have seen more progression based on what I know about my level, then that's when you start, okay, I'm going to make a tweak. I'm going to ask my friends. I'm like, hey, what do you think? Someone I respect. Hey, kind of doing my block like this. I noticed that my squat is stagnant. What do you recommend I do? You make that change. You try that change. You just keep notes on, like, and it will gradually become your own method. I think I hope that wasn't too rambly. You know, it's one of those things that, like, I don't have a finite answer. I'm just kind of speculating, like, if I could go back, how would I have done it optimally? And I would say that would be my general approach. I hope this helped somebody. It's kind of one of the ones that I wish I had seen. If you have any questions for me, just comment them on this video or any other video.